top of the morning, and it is a beaut.
And the hope of the Irish as the future champion of the world.
A podcast is kind of like it's like a radio show that's not on the radio.
Welcome to the Barry J. McDonald podcast. The place where dreams get dusted off and acted on. Because life is too short. We're living on a rock that's flying through space. And hey, what the hell else were you going to do with yourself here?
Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very, very welcome to today's podcast episode. Now, the comedian George Burns said one time, "I'd rather be a failure at something I love than a success at something I didn't." Now, I'm sure you probably have seen that speech Jim Carrey gave one time. I think it was at a commencement speech he gave, but he was talking about his family and he was talking about his father. And he said that, his father was a funny man. He reckons he probably could have made it as a comedian, but he didn't believe, I think, that he could have made it. And what he did was he went down the safe route. He got a job as an accountant, and he worked at that job for many years. And Jim said there was one point, I don't know whether it was a downturn in business or what happened, but his father was laid off. And he remembered looking at his father thinking, if you can be a failure at something you don't like, isn't it better maybe just to do the thing that you want to do? And if you fail at that, at least you're probably in a better place. So I think that's what started him on the kind of journey that he went on to become a comedian, because, he's seen how his father had failed in a 9-to-5 job. So what was the risk? You can fail in either way. So wouldn't it be better maybe failing in something that you wanted to do? Now, I even seen that in my own life too. And my father was a truck driver. Now, he was a truck driver for many, many years. My father was one of these people who could throw his hand at anything at all. He could weld anything. He could probably do woodwork, whatever. You just give him the tools and away he would go. But he was a truck driver for many, many years. And he was even working into his 70s driving trucks. I don't think he ever thought he was ever going to retire. But he had a heart attack at one point, and due to the heart attack and his health afterwards, he couldn't drive. He was told not to drive. It wasn't safe for him driving a truck, so he retired. And I remember a couple of months after he had his surgery, he had his bypass surgery, I remember asking him, do you miss driving at all, Daddy, since you're at home all the time now? And he said no. Now, it wasn't a kind of reply that I would have expected. I thought he might have said, well, I miss it a little bit, or I miss getting about, I miss kind of meeting the people, or I miss the work or whatever. But he never said any of that. It was just a straight no, I don't miss it. And I remember kind of thinking about that as I was going home that night. It was such a definite answer, such a just a plain no, that it kind of made me think, was he ever really happy in that job? Was there ever any good days? Or did he ever, or would he look back on his life and say, well, that was a life well spent? I know he had to do the job because he had to take care of us. He had to put food on the table. He had to put a roof over our head. So I know he did that job to bring money in. But he never really kind of stretched himself. He never really done anything outside that. But again, that was probably the generation that he was in. The pre-internet generation, where people just kind of assumed they had this kind of role for the rest of their life. This occupation that they had, it was a job for life. They would just do whatever, from cradle to grave. If you were a carpenter, if you were a shopkeeper, if you were a hairdresser or a butcher, this was the thing that you did for the rest of your life. But nowadays, I think we're so lucky with the internet here that we can be anything we want to be. We can change roles, we can change occupations, we could have various different jobs in our career. Sometimes not through to our own choice. Maybe sometimes factories close down or places close down and we need to take on another role. But we don't need to stay in the roles that we have. We can chop and change around. We can test this out for a while and then we can give this one a go, or do this or do that. So when it comes to failing at things, a lot of us believe that, it's better to go down the safe route, get the 9-to-5 job, or just do what everybody else is doing. But really, when you look back at my dad and, Jim Carrey's father, when you can fail at something you hate, wouldn't it be better to go for the golden ring? Do the thing that you would like to do. And at least if you failed at that, at least you can say, I tried. At least you scratched that itch, you wrote that book, you spread your message, or whatever it was that you got it out of yourself. And at least I think if you fail, even at the things that, you wanted to do. I'm sure you can look back on your life and say, well, you know something, my life wasn't a failure, or my life wasn't wasted. I did the thing that I wanted to do. And what I would also say as well is, when you look at the people who are really successful, all the people that we watch on TV, the actors, the musicians, the people that we go to see in concert, or, even the people that we put their posters up on our walls when we were teenagers. The reason they got to where they were is sometimes maybe the first thought was for the money, but a lot of those people, it wasn't the money. They had a dream to play music or play in a band. They never really looked further than that. They just had a love for what they did. And you'll find the people who love what they do, you can't compete with them. They're always there. They're always showing up. They're writing, they're recording, they are, doing gigs. They don't care if they don't get paid for it. They don't care if there's no audience. It's just a thing that they need to do. And you'll find that those people who love what they do, because they show up so much, because they put so much content out there, because they provide a great service or whatever, people start to notice them. And then the money seems to flow in. I forget which rapper I seen in an interview, and he said that, the money for him wasn't what he was aiming for. He just wanted to rap. He just wanted to get his music out there. He wanted to share that with people. And from that, he built his audience, he built his listeners, and, he went on to become a multi-millionaire. So a lot of us sometimes try and chase the money. We try and go for the money first. But like George Burns says, do you really want to be wealthy but hating every day of what you do? So at least, if you go after the things that you love, at least you have the love. At least you have the satisfaction. At least at the end of the day, when you go to bed, you say, well, today was a good day because I did the thing that I wanted to do. Instead of maybe going to bed and dreading that you have to get up and do the exact same thing tomorrow. Now, sometimes we do have 9-to-5 jobs because we do need to put a roof over our heads, or we do need to make money right now. But that doesn't mean you can't, work in the evenings, write your book, record your videos, blog, podcast, or whatever in your free time, until eventually that you put that much love into it that people start pay attention to you, start noticing you, start listening to you, start sharing your content, and then eventually you find that love, it starts spreading out, and then the money kind of trickles in afterwards. So it's easy to fail at anything, but really, wouldn't it be better to fail at something you love? At least you say, at least I tried, I gave it a shot. I can look back in my life, I can be satisfied that I did all the things that I wanted to do. Okay, some of them didn't work out, but I'm glad I did it. I think it's worse maybe to go to the end of your life, maybe just like my father did, where he just worked all the time and never really probably worked on half of the things he wanted to do. He didn't mark off everything on his little checklist or his bucket list or whatever. I'll never know. We'll never know. But isn't it better maybe just to do the things that make you happy? And if you fail at them, at least you're still happy. You did that thing. You wrote that book. You recorded that podcast or whatever. So chase the happiness. And I think if you chase it long enough, people will start to notice you and the money will start showing up. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Before you go, Barry would like to give you a free copy of Words to Wealth. In it, he's going to show you 10 ways to make money from writing. Head on over to writecome.com now for your copy. Have a great day and come back soon.